We made and performed these pretty special and quite experimental live music visuals for this one-off gig by Latvian underground rap artist Arturs Skutelis. And when I say live, they were actually live. Everything you'll see was generated in real time, cobbling together TouchDesigner, Unreal Engine, using audio signals from mics in the DJ decks, Kinect depth camera, a live camera feed, and a little bit of real-time AI. This was our two-man setup to get this done. 2 PCs connected via Ethernet cable, one running TouchDesigner and Unreal Engine, generating the visuals, and sending video feed to the second one running Resolve, where some extra accents were added like strobes, blanking, and occasionally some post effects, and then sending the final video signal out to the stage screen. Then, at the front of the stage, there was a cute little box with a laptop in it and a Kinect camera, connected via 50 meters of Ethernet cable to the first PC, sending the Kinect video signal via NDI over the Ethernet cable. And we also had a Canon EOS R with a 200mm lens at our desk, sending a live camera feed via USB to TouchDesigner. Emīls was splitting his time between Resolve and camera hopping as and when needed, and I was doing TouchDesigner and Unreal Engine things on the first PC via my homemade control panel and Integrid MIDI controller setup. The plan was to create a gig in 6 chapters, kinda like a book telling a story, each chapter having its own identity in terms of music, message, and visuals, changing the techniques and gadgets we used between the chapters to keep it fresh and interesting for the audience and ourselves. A key decision was to have a wide and narrow screen low to the ground to make the stage feel more like an interactive installation rather than just a big screen playing videos. It was really important for us to have continuity and logic to how the previous song's visuals would translate into the next one, like sentences in a story, so they would have a discernible purpose and evolution. So, quite a few of the songs shared the same setup in TouchDesigner that we would evolve and change. I had built 16 different TouchDesigner networks to perform the 30 songs that had visuals planned, all built using the same framework and logic with main parameters assigned to the sliders in the control panel, and joined into one master project that allowed for fast switching, which was crucial. Our setup for final 6th chapter was pretty cool too. It was using TouchDesigner as a backend to control a scene in Unreal Engine, rendering and simulating in real time. Although the whole point of performing the visuals live was to be able to make adjustments on the go, it kinda goes well together with the live, in-the-moment nature of hip-hop. Keeping track of 30-odd sliders and knobs on the fly at all times is pretty impossible. So major key was coding up the ability to save, label, and load any state of my control panel to be able to create presets for the key moments or bigger changes. I also ended up coding the ability to gradually crossfade between the saved presets, which came in very handy. Each of the 6 chapters started with a little intro video, setting the tone and mood for the upcoming 6 songs. The intros were unified in style, like a thread running throughout the show, and also setting up a bit of a payoff in the final chapter. The first chapter, titled Identity, consisted of well-known old songs from artists' first albums, dealing with ego and self. The music brought it back to the roots, and so did we, by starting the show with a lo-fi aesthetic of a simple audio signal. A particularly fun technique for me was taking vectors, turning them into audio samples, and blending them with a live audio waveform. The first 3 songs were a continuous mix, so we seamlessly evolved the visual look over the course of them while still keeping it quite lo-fi and minimal. Only towards the end of the chapter, we opened up the screen to its full width for the first time. This first chapter gave a taste of a bit of everything. Audio reactivity, live camera, real-time 3D rendering in TouchDesigner, and some sweet Kinect point clouds to end the chapter with. Visuals for the second chapter, focusing on themes of self-awareness and relationship with yourself, was all about the silhouette. We gave ourselves a rule that all the pixels on the screen should somehow only come from the silhouette of the artist. This was done with a real-time feed from the Kinect depth camera. Either by using the depth data to generate point clouds, by using depth image itself to create a silhouette. or by actually silhouetting the artist on stage via lighting. The goal is to establish a clear visual motif and create anticipation for the audience of how this motif will be used for each of the songs. A highlight for me was one of the simplest visuals, a track called Doubles about the multiple shades of personality we all possess, where we had two copies of the live feed playing, one with a slowly increasing delay, gradually becoming more and more out of sync and separating from the original over the course of the track. The focal point of Chapter 3, titled Help, was that every song featured guest artists, and to reflect that increased energy they brought to the stage, we turned on the live camera. The first 2/3 of the chapter had a moody and grungy vibe, so we ran the live feed through TouchDesigner network in combination with old-school in-camera tricks, like feedback loops and slow shutter speed, to create visuals that were somewhere from analog-looking to trashy. The middle part of the chapter had the show's only pre-rendered visual, shot in our $1 million studio a couple of days prior. The aftermath of this visual served as the backdrop for the next one, and leading into more unhinged tracks to close the chapter. This energy was matched by the use of real-time, interactive and audio-active AI visuals. A major key for the setup was creating a solution for quick prompt switching on the fly from a pre-prepared list of prompts. Fourth chapter, titled Forgiveness, was the most chill and leisurely one musically and visually. We kept the screen blank for the first two songs to switch up the pace after the AI visual overload. For this chapter, all the setups used particle systems as the base, mixing them with subtle interactivity from Kinect for the third song and then turning them into one of the boldest visuals of the set, going full cringe kiss cam to set up a satisfying break in the song midway through. The glitch patterns were based on the actual LED panel sizes of the screen for an extra detail. We knew we wanted to end the chapter with a colorful painterly canvas. So over the course of the last two songs, I manually transformed the glitchy particles by stretching, displacing and blending them into pretty cloud-like Berlin noise. Chapter 5 was the darkest and heaviest part of the show. Titled Control, it featured songs with direct and strong message. To illustrate that, we set a clear, constrained visual motif that weaved throughout the chapter. Each song would have to start and end with a clean white line across the stage that we would develop using various techniques into these minimalist visuals. The goal was to create more conceptual and iconic imagery here, instead of going for eye candy or interactive tricks, to set this chapter apart and reflect the cerebral nature of it. It was especially fun building and then controlling these live 3D scenes by combining looping 3D animated models with generative TouchDesigner stuff, all rendering in real time, of course. For the sixth and final chapter, called Homecoming, we created a payoff to these black and white mood-setting intros that had opened each of the previous chapters, to bring the whole show together. After this final one, we stayed in the room of the intro and developed it into like a theatrical backdrop that would continue for the rest of the chapter. To do that, I created a virtual copy of the intro scene in Unreal Engine and built a controllable room around it that would be our playground for this chapter's visuals. This whole chapter was done by using TouchDesigner as a backend to drive various parameters in Unreal Engine via blueprints, and then Unreal Engine rendering its pretty imagery in real time and sending its feed back to TouchDesigner for any kind of final post effects. We also added real-time physics simulations in the mix, combining them with audio reactivity to build a pretty drop.
Un zinu to, ka iešu tālu priekšā mirgos teikt, šī mūzika ir kaut kas vairāk, jo man ir ko teikt.
This is about 1,000 books simulating in real time, on top of TouchDesigner running in background, all on one PC, which is pretty crazy. We could have perhaps pre-rendered some of this, but running it all live added an extra level of uniqueness and immediacy to the visuals. There was no way to undo messing up the room if something didn't go to plan. Things would fall where they would fall, which is very much in the spirit of the show.